Good morning, everyone. What is that now? Something's reflecting right off. Uh, let's see. There. That's better. Okay. Ah, I'm delegated to my room. I went over to the barn yesterday. My brother in law had a music class, so he went and I took care of everything in the evening. And it's supposed to rain. Looks like it will. And we had very little water in the barrels over there. So I cleaned them out, I dumped them over, and the one I had to lift up completely to dump over because the rim isn't smooth on the top. So in order to get everything out, you have to kind of quickly, yep, switch it so it all comes out. Had some leaves in it and stuff. And those barrels aren't that heavy, okay? But they're not that light either, and they're big. And I was fine. I had been feeling great, taking care of my back and my legs. And about an hour later, oh my gosh, suddenly I realized I can't walk. It was so bad. Anyway, so I'm in pain. Offering it up for a child out there. Yes, yes, yes. And again, right? Yep, I did everything. I fed the dogs this morning, took care of certain other things, but I'm in pain. I know, and I'm smiling. I did that to myself. Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You feel a little better and you're going, now, yeah, now I can, right? And I did a bunch of stuff in the garden yesterday too, but I was very careful there. So definitely the barrels did it this time. So here we go. I guess it takes some time for whatever happens in my back to swell up and shoot right into my leg. But it's okay because I have work to do. And here's one thing I wanted to show you guys. I've been making these Christmas ornaments. Aren't they just the cutest? Look at that. Here's another one. It was the last of the clay, and my youngest daughter and my granddaughter and I, look at that. And here's the snowman, which doesn't have a little tie on the top yet. Look, I made him googly eyes. uh, it was the last of the clay before I came home. And look on the back, on some of them I wrote mom, and on one of them each I'm gonna write Grozy. That's for my oldest granddaughter. Well, anyway, uh, it was the last of the clay that the children and I made while I was up there taking care of them for the summer. And my youngest granddaughter and we started. I said, let's make some Christmas ornaments, and I already knew that I would be taking them home to make them, and I left her a set to do whatever she wanted with. Well, anyway, so I have a set of about 5 or 6 of them that I'm making for all of my children, right, for Christmas, but I'm going to give them to them for Thanksgiving. Yes, so that they can use them for Christmas this year. Yeah, when I look at these, I'm going, oh my gosh, it's such a, right? It's not like, look, they're pretty crude, right? Yes, but it's homemade clay. These have memories attached to them for me. Yes, I'm giving them kind of, yeah, hoping, oh, maybe, people take good care of them, this, that, they can be handed down as a memento, right? Yes. All right. Wow, what a cheap thing. People are so used to the perfect, right, shape of everything and perfectly painted and I don't know what, and then that has value. To me, a lot of things have value because of the memories that they carry. They don't have it hasn't doesn't have to be perfect or anything. And it's really sad to me, right? That again, a gift like this, are my children going to, oh my gosh, they're from mom and mom and the clan? Probably not. Maybe they'll surprise me. Who knows? Right? But a gift like this, do you really think that's a hit? To me, it is. While I'm making them, this, that, it's a total, I totally enjoy it. I love, that's the gift that I want to give. Yes? Isn't it sad that often this kind of care and love that goes into something, yeah, that's not going to be perfect. As I said, they're not perfect, are they? They're no way perfect. But they're all reused. It's all reused things. The reason, see, that's a package, right? You see how that's a package. Oh, but why is it so dark, right? Well, because I had some spray paint up at my daughter's that needed to be used up, and it's kind of sparkly. So okay, and then everything else I've already had here, and yes, just reusing things. Don't have to buy a thing, and then the ties on top I braided with. I have a ton of this really thin uh, yarn, and so I braided it to make a nice tie. See, isn't it pretty? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, and I thought while I'm making them as well, and of course, but I try to really put some, okay, how do you say, more grander creativity into it. Yet I'm not, though I love doing it, I'm not very good at it. I really am not. But I love doing it. So I'm not going to let anything or anyone stop me from continuing to give things, right? That, yeah, okay, here, mom goes again here. What did you do this time? The thing is, though, that again, oh, so my children aren't respectful or honor the things that I make. No, 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 it's not that. Okay. It's the mindset that the people, right, get into also as they grow older. Right? It's very easy to please a little child, right, with a lollipop, for example. Okay, is that the best thing? Or just to go out with them and collect rocks or shells. Right? Yes, they love that. I remember here going with the children, and they all have a little basket, and every one of them, it didn't matter if it was a girl or a boy, they would get into collecting things and would listen when I would tell them about an herb or a tree, right? Yes, or tracks that we would find. Yes, every one of them. They're so easy to please, right? Yes, easy to please, and they get so excited when they see that you are excited. But as people grow older, right, and we have so many machines now replacing people making things, everything comes stamped out exactly the same, right? Yes, no feelings attached to it, no the little extra creativity or little imperfection that makes a thing sometimes what it is, or special. And it's sad that as human beings who are so creative and can get so excited and really put something special into something, making, growing, fixing, building, that we're so easily replaced now, yeah, by something that has nothing attached. A machine doesn't have any kind of anything attached to anything that it makes. None. Yeah, we're worried about losing our freedoms and losing our rights and losing our this and that and I don't know what. Right? People ever thought of where's our creativity going? Even if you're not the greatest artist in the shed, right? Yes, we give up things we really love doing because is it worth it? Still doing it? People care. Well, again, uh, you know, I said that to someone the other day. I said, when someone has low self esteem, they just don't have the courage to pat themselves on the back every once in a while, praise themselves for something they did, even if it isn't perfect. Right? So low self-esteem doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the people around you. It has to do with yourself. And one can be too humble, too agreeable, too this and too that, right? Yes. So I made for the first time paella yesterday. Paella. Ugh, it's a Spanish dish with all kinds of meats and seafood and rice. So I made it for the first time, and it's not. It didn't have, though it did have that expensive, super expensive saffron. Holy canoe! I mean, you're talking expensive. I'm thinking $6, $7 for a few strands or whatever. It's a few strands. It's an all right amount. For $18. My husband did get it for me, though. I told him, I said, hey, I'll use curry. I'll alter the recipe, but let's not spend that amount of money on something. I mean, we're using here what once. Well, anyway, he said, "No, I'm gonna get you that." That was very sweet, wasn't it? Yeah. And it didn't quite. I've had that. I've visited Spain. I've had it there before. I've ate it afterwards, and it didn't have exactly the flavor. So I'm going to do it again. Yet it was really, really, really good, and everybody really liked it. And here I'm sitting, I'm going, man, I know it doesn't taste quite as it should, but I did a good job, man. For the first time, that doesn't taste bad at all. I mean, and I looked around, and it kind of looked at me and said, well, you got like it too, don't you? Oh yeah, oh it's great. And I said, I said, yeah, low self esteem in people comes by not having the courage to praise oneself every once in a while, right? Yes? Acknowledge when you did something really good, even if nobody else around you does. If you're always looking for uh, praise and encouragement and, I say praise, encouragement, validation from other people, and then you don't get it, because people just start to think more like a machine. Forget these little things that, oh, I should let someone know. I should let that person know that was really good. I should let that person know. It looks like there's a lot of care that went into these little things, right? That you're making. Or, wow, your garden looks this is fabulous. You got a green thumb or something. All right. Yeah, even little things. Yes. Hmm. If you're always looking for that, then from other people, right? Yes. Oh, here's the other thing too. Make sure you give plenty of it out as well, because when you do that, then you're going to start having the courage to praise yourself as well. Yes, for the good things that you do. You don't need to have it from someone else. Raise your self-esteem. Raise your self-esteem in the right way, on the side of goodness. Right? Yes. Be a much happier person, even when you're in pain. I made enough. Made a big old, yep. You make paella in a big old pan, right? I had one. You make enough? Right? Yeah, I made enough. I don't have to cook today, which is great because I'm stuck here more or less. I've got work to do here too. All right. Let's finish this up. Yes. Okay. If I remember that, I'll talk about that later. So we're in 24, and that's the last chapter of 2 Samuel. Thank God. I'm about done with this. Oh, the next is the books of the kings. Oh. Thought this was a book about God. Okay. We're in 2 Samuel 24, the census. Again, Yahweh's anger was aroused against Israel, and he incited David against them. Oh, I can't see God doing stuff like that. Ugh. What did I just talk about? Ah. Yeah. Go, he said, take a census of Israel and Judah. The king said to Joab and the senior army officers who were with him, wait a minute. Okay, so they start this out with Yahweh, God, was angry and incited David. And then David says, go take a census of Israel and Judah. I went, wait a minute. You're starting this out with God's anger was wrath. How so? How so? And who says God actually talked to David? But it starts out as this, so what? So we get a good reason to believe whatever David is doing is the right thing, isn't it? What is this? I feel like, when people go to court now, I've only seen that, on shows and stuff, but I bet you that's how it works. I guess that's how it works. Where a lawyer or a prosecutor is asking the witnesses something, and the other lawyer, the opposite side, says objection, leading the witness, right? With certain things that you're confusing the person so badly with wanting to admit to something or deny something, that now you're asking the question in a way where there is neither a answer to it according to how the person actually seen it, felt it, experienced it, whatever, right? And there's not I can't say yes to that and I can't say no to that because of the way that you ask the question, right? Yes, that's leading the witness. That's leading an answer rather than asking in a way where then you can get the right answer, the true answer from a person, right? Yes? Okay, that's leading the witness right here. That's leading the whole last part again. And this is not the first time I've seen this, and I've mentioned it before. Yes? Wow, we had some good lawyers already at that time. For whom? God? God's purpose? God's will? God's desire? Or is it again the people? Now it's the king, right? To just make it all look fine. All right. I hate my say. Go, he said, take a census of Israel and Judah. The king said to Joab and the senior army officers who were with him, Now go through all the tribes of Israel from Dan to Beersheba and take a census of the people. I wish to know the size of the population. Joab said to the king, May Yahweh your God multiply the people 100 times, however many there are. But I thought God was angry, incited David against them. So he's going to go and take, and then what? Go kill a bunch of them? Oh my God, I have no idea. Why did he even start it like that? Well, my lord the king still has eyes to see it, but why should my lord the king be set on this? The king nonetheless enforced his order on Joab and the senior officers, and Joab and the senior officers left the king's presence to take a census of the people of Israel. Oh, they even asked him, but he doesn't. Why should I answer? They crossed the Jordan and made a start with Aroer and the town in the middle of the valley, then moved on to the Gadites and to Jazer. They then went to Gilead and the territory of the Hittites, to Kadesh. Wait a minute, but okay, who did they all count? Well, they then went to Dan, and from Dan cut across to Sidon. They then went to the fortress of Tyre and to all the towns of the Hittites and Canaanites, ending up in the Negeb of Judah at Beersheba. Having traveled throughout the country after 9 months and 20 days, they returned to Jerusalem. It sounds like to me they didn't just count the people of Israel. They counted anybody and everyone that was under David's rule. Joab gave the king the census results for the people. Israel had 800,000 fighting men and who could wield a sword, and Judah 500,000. Wow. That's just the guys who are able to fight. Again, that's important to know, isn't it? The pestilence, God's forgiveness. But afterwards, David's heart misgave him for having taken a census of the people. What's the big deal about it? David then said to Yahweh, I have committed a grave sin by doing this, but now, Yahweh, I beg you to forgive your servant for this fault. What? Why can't he go and take a census? Maybe because of what I mentioned and what was important? Men to kill and be killed? I don't know. I have no idea. Does it make sense? For I have acted very foolishly. When, however, David got up next morning, the following message had come from Yahweh to the prophet Gad, David's seer. Go and say to David, Yahweh says this, I offer you 3 things. Choose which one of them I am to inflict on you. Ah, dear me. Choose the punishment? So Gad went to David and said, which do you prefer, to have 3 years of famine befall your country, to flee for 3 months before a pursuing army, or to have 3 days of epidemic in your country? Now think and decide how I am to answer him who sends me. All right, so have 3 years of famine befall your country. Who's going to be punished by that? David? I'm sure he'll have plenty to eat. Who's going to be afflicted by that? To flee for 3 months before the pursuing army. Now that sounds like that would have to do with David. All right? Army against army. The people, the common people, wouldn't really be involved per se for 3 months. 3 years. No, 3 months. That's not, okay. Or to have 3 days of epidemic in your country. Again, who's gonna be afflicted? David? You can just go hide somewhere. Now think and decide how I am to answer him who sends me. I thought that David talked directly to God. Why doesn't David just say, I'll tell him myself? I'll tell God myself. No. Ugh, my God, this is such a mess. David said to Gad, I am very apprehensive. Better to fall into Yahweh's hands, since his mercies are great, than to fall into the hands of men. So David chose the epidemic. It was the time of the wheat harvest. So Yahweh unleashed an epidemic on Israel from that morning until the time determined. Plague ravaged the people, and of the people from Dan to Beersheba, 70,000 died. But when the angel stretched his hand towards Jerusalem to destroy it, Yahweh felt sorry about the calamity and said to the angel who was destroying the people, Enough now, hold your hand. The angel of Yahweh was standing by the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. When David saw the angel who was ravaging the people, he said to Yahweh, I was the one who sinned. I was the one who acted wrongly. But these, the flock, what have they done? Let your hand lie heavy on me and on my family. Well, he had a choice of 3, where I think the one... oh, my gosh, this is just... You get entrenched enough into believing something the right thing to be, right? And there seems to be no way to get back out of it somehow. I don't even know what to say here. It's just the building of an altar. Gad went to David that day and said, Go up and raise an altar to Yahweh on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. See, what was this punishment about? It was just David wasn't affected. I bet you not one of his wives or children or servants in the palace, wherever, was affected by it. Who was affected by it? So what? So David's the one who says, oh, I did wrong, but he chose a punishment for the people that only affected the people. Oh, but he felt bad about it. I bet. It's a bit late for that, isn't it? So at Gad's bidding, David went up as Yahweh had ordered. Yeah, sure. When Araunah looked up and saw the king and his retinue advancing towards him, Araunah was threshing the wheat. Araunah came forward and prostrated himself on the ground at the king's feet. Why has my lord the king come to his servant? Araunah asked. David replied, to buy the threshing floor from you to build an altar to Yahweh, so that the plague may be lifted from the people. Oh! I thought it was halted, just bangity bang, bang, bang. Oh, but it wasn't. Oh, 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 only Jerusalem was spared. Well, it probably was surrounded by a big old wall and nobody was allowed in. So the plague didn't happen either there. Okay, this, oh, dear me. The story again. Also, I thought he was in his last days. He said his last words. Here he is still. All right. Daniela. Araunah said to David, let me, Lord the king, take it and make what offerings he thinks fit. Okay. Here are the oxen for the burnt offering and the threshing sleds and the oxen yokes for the wood. My lord the king's servant will give the king everything. And Araunah said to the king, may Yahweh your God accept what you offer. Doesn't David have enough? He has to go out and take everything from one servant out there that has it all that he needs. Doesn't he have enough of that stuff himself? Whatever. No, said the king to Araunah, I shall give you a price for it. I will not offer Yahweh my God burnt offerings which have cost me nothing. Oh, Daniela, eat your words. David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver. David built an altar to Yahweh and offered burnt offerings and communion sacrifices. Yahweh then took pity on the country and the plague was lifted from Israel. Well, it only lasted for 3 days anyway. Well, anywho, the last part, right? What did I say? Right? And then David says, no, I'm going to give you it. And how much did he give him? Not very much, did he? Well, in any case, right? Again, I stand by, even though, right? Yes? Oh, but, and that would placate the people. No doubt. Not me. Because I said, why does he have to go and look out there for something? Why doesn't he do it, right? Right there in Jerusalem in his own palace? Oh, that's because Jerusalem wasn't affected, so he needed to go out, right? And go somewhere, far away, where obviously Araunah was not affected by the plague, so it was going on somewhere else, right? But it was at least out there in the countryside. All right. It's a weird one. I said, there isn't, you read enough, I guess, and you're going, okay, whatever you have to say, right? I already know this isn't according to God's way, will, or desire, right? And then again, okay, so that plagues breaking out, it's not an uncommon thing. We had one, right? Man-made, nature taking its course for some reason, this or that, I don't know. It happened. Yes? Well, anyway, so epidemics, this and that. So here it is, it happens, and it's, that's punishment from God, really? Yeah, okay. But how do you punish your children when they do something wrong? You give them a punishment where they die? Oh, some parents are like that, actually. Beat their kids to death over nothing. Yeah. Yes, they are out there too. That's awful. That's absolutely awful. But most parents don't. Yeah, child may get a little spanking, slap on the hand, right? Got to go in the room or in the corner and reflect a little bit on their behavior. Maybe they don't get a toy they wanted, right? Okay, or get to go someplace they wanted. And, all right. But are you going to kill them? You're going to put all your children in a room because they misbehaved and release some kind of a toxic fume in the room? See who makes and who doesn't? Really? Yet, we want to believe God does that. Okay, all right. Well, I said my piece. Now, last thing to this. And why do I have a feeling it's going to go right on in the book of Kings? This was the last of 2 Samuel. Have the rabbis, the priests, reverends, who are preaching about the Old Testament read this? I'm starting to wonder if anybody out there has actually read the Bible from beginning to end and really kind of sat and go, holy, what's going on here? Have they? I'd like to know. I've said this, but I'd like to know. Has anybody actually really read the Bible? The people preaching the Bible out there, the Torah, right? As I said, the rabbis, the priests of old. What are you teaching the people out there about the life of Israel and the kings that they had? I don't know. I've never been to a synagogue. And not sure what they preached it, but I've listened to some videos and I had to say, okay, who are you learning from? That's what I want to know. What are you actually teaching out there to the people? According on how people want you to teach this and how they also have written it down, as I said, leading the witness, or are you actually teaching according to God's guidance? That Israel lost a long time ago, and we're only in this much of the Old Testament. But already. Just wondering. Not saying if you're doing something wrong out there, whatever. Just wondering. I'm very perturbed. In a way, kind of surprised that at my age, I didn't realize this sooner either. I think that every one of us out there that's a believer in God has got to eat some of that humble pie. And acknowledge that we've not done a very good job teaching, believing, having faith. That's one reason Jesus ended up on the cross. In the guidance of God. The principles of creation and the principles of love. We've not done, as believers, as faithful people, we've not done a very good job. I think I've said this before as well. In my opinion, it's my opinion, okay? It's been my experience that following any religion just guides you, influences you, pushes you further away from God. That's what I've experienced. That's what I've seen people do. Lots of kings out there. Lots of kings. Some are people. Some things that are kings, idols, this, that, or things. Perfect things stamped out by machines. The individuality of the people is getting lost. And with that, we're getting even farther away from all the wonderful things that God has created out there for us to see. But because we like it in this perfect state, all the same, exactly the same, we can't see anymore that absolute wonderful artist that God is in everything, with the little quirks like mosquitoes and flies and wasps, snakes. Yet, of course, they all have their place in the environment here to keep things balanced out as well. Yeah, right? Yes. I don't know about poison ivy and poison oak, but I'm sure they too, right? Yes. Do you know that, interestingly enough, every good healing plant has other plants very similar or poisonous, like poison ivy, poison oak, around them to protect them. So when one forages, like I've done for so many years, you're very careful. Yes, and when you suddenly see that, oh, the first thing you do is you don't rush towards it. You look around first to make sure. Yes, yeah, and then you only harvest as much as is permissible, especially when it's a tuber or something like ginseng. Okay, all right. Anywho, so there it is. I said it all, I think. Yeah. Religion is a tool. Most spiritual scriptures are textbooks, just like you learn math and other things, literature and whatever, right? Yet, they're not to be worshipped. They're not to become your idols because they keep you from God. They really do. Yeah. Oh, because God says so. Because God, no, it's us. It's us. Huh? Yeah, God's always there. Yes. Mm. All right. Okay, that's it. That's all I have to say this morning. God's love and blessings always. May He protect you, and I will talk to you another time.